Can you tell me something? Why do women leave good men? Let's see if you relate to this scenario. Your wife's been complaining that you work too much. You spend too much time in the office and not enough time at home with her, with the kids. She says, you lack balance in life and you need to be more present as a father and as a husband. Now, this has been going on for years and you're sick and tired of her complaining. But if you were to pause and take an honest look at yourself in the mirror, you would realize that she's right. There is a distant memory where you would leave work early to come home with her and the kids. And now you find yourself making excuses to stay another hour or 3 to finish up projects that must get done. But you want to change and you also want to show her those changes. And with new information comes new decisions. So you make that change. You start coming home earlier. You even buy her flowers 3 weeks in a row just to make her happy. And what is the result? Does she look at you with the biggest smile saying, thank you? No, not at all. In fact, she calls you needy and says, I just don't feel it anymore, you know? I love you, but I'm no longer in love with you and I need some space. What in the actual what just happened? Are you crazy? Is she crazy? You gave her exactly what she asked for, or did you? This exact scenario has played out with millions of men, and not knowing what happened here is the most dangerous thing for your marriage. In this video, I will sum up this danger with 3 powerful principles. They will open your eyes to why women leave good men. Now you'll use these principles to avoid the danger altogether and open up the door to real intimacy with your wife, more than you've ever had it. She'll want to spend more time with you and she'll fall back in love with you again. And it'll pave the way for a marriage so smooth. It's like that first spread of the knife across the freshly opened jar of peanut butter. You know what I'm talking about? That first one was like pops and then, okay. That's the fitting journey of a good man like yourself deserves. But you will also learn why so many men just get it wrong, which means if you don't learn this danger, you'll be on a collision course with a fatal marriage disaster. You'll end up confused, livid with frustration, and smack dab in the middle of the scenario that I described earlier. Do you golf? Knowing my average audience member here, you probably have. Even if you don't go regularly. Well, the point is, if you have, then you know the short game is just as important, if not more so, as cranking that perfect drive. Like that time I was approaching the green, I pulled out my chipping wedge and all I needed to do was chip the ball gracefully onto the green near the hole, right? But what did I do? I swung too hard, of course. The ball flew right over the green and rolled down the hill onto the other side. Now, if I was competing in the Masters, there'd be some laughs, some gas from the crowd. What I did there was I overcompensated. And many husbands do this in their marriage. The principle here is that overcompensating undervalues. It undervalues your behavior. It undervalues you as a man. It's hard to see this because, well, often when we get that like eureka moment, we're feeling good and we're determined to make things right. And we don't want to do this half-assed job of really fixing the problems that you've now just become aware with your wife. See, one of my clients, Neil, he experienced this overcompensation head on. One day he was in the garage working his butt off to rearrange everything around, a project that he didn't want to do. All of a sudden, his wife busted into the room and said, why the hell are those boxes still in the basement blocking the shelves? You said you'd move them weeks ago. Now that verbal grenade had its pin pulled for over a decade wanting to go off, right? It was just not about that, it was about all the resentment. The stack of boxes were just a symptom of this like deeper underlying issue. But immediately, Neil felt his whole body tense, fire up. He was stunned into silence. Then he exploded into a fierce return fire argument. His heated words were bullets loaded with logic loaded bullets. He got defensive about the long hours he was putting in at work and doing it for her and the 2 daughters. And he was all day in the garage fixing everything. In that moment, back and forth, she finally said, I'm no longer in love with you. And they were living as roommates, just co-parenting under the same roof. It was only later that Neil realized she was right. So you see, here's what I mean. Over the years, he paid more attention to his job and his hobby of fixing cars than his marriage. The electric intimacy they once shared was now a dead battery. He'd always dismissed her concerns as just complaining. Now she wanted space and it hit him like a ton of bricks. Neil immediately took action after he figured this out. He started seeing a therapist. He dove deep into himself and examined his past and what caused him to really be the way he was. He learned about the trauma he carried into his adulthood and why he was so closed off from a model of his father, like most men I work with. But the question here is, what did he do next? You see, he floored it in the other direction and did not stop. He bought his wife flowers, waiting on her hand and foot. He did everything he could to make her happy by doing all these things. You see, his wife noticed a change and commended him at first, but it did not want to stop her from taking space. And Neil was perplexed as a deer in the headlights. In trying to do good on his marriage, Neil made a common mistake. He overcompensated. And by doing so, he stopped doing things that attracted her in the first place. You see, back when the marriage was first new, he was a man of purpose. He had a healthy balance of independence, working on himself, going to the gym, going through his hobbies. And your wife wants you to lead and be this man, not follow her like a puppy dog, to do everything to break your back just to make her happy. That puts you in a lower value position. I was gonna say it's everything, but it definitely is major key, okay? But do not overcomplicate or overcompensate on this process. And when you do so correctly, you'll find this next point just effortlessly flows from those actions and that mindset. Now for this next one, I see it all the time in the comments down below. I would say 45% of men are filled with anxiety and doubt when they go through this process. And the men who beg their wife and try to convince her to stay through logic and need, it's a common trope, but they remain emotionally on their knees, hoping their wife will throw them a life preserver from the pedestal that they put her on. Then the other 45% of men, creating 90% total, say, screw her, it's her loss, I'll just find another one. Now it sounds harsh, but this does happen. So are those the only two options? Well, of course not, because 45 plus 45 is 90. So there are that 10% of men who do get it right. They find their balance in the middle of those two situations. They don't undermine change, and they also don't overcompensate with it. I'm talking about the apex median. It is the golden pathway of middle ground that leads to marriage harmony. You have that empathy, but also that independence. You're a lover, but you're also a leader, okay? That balance is what the apex man possesses and is honestly what your wife goes crazy for. And it's not just about your mindset. That energy that radiates off you, she can just feel it through every action. You don't have to ask yourself, what do I do? Because if you're that man, everything you do is at high value. I'm not saying you can never express your emotions on one side over this side, but also don't close them off completely. Fill your life up with so much positive activity that the addition of her in it is an extra blessing, the cherry on top. Basically, she complements you, she doesn't complete you. You see, thousands of years of biology have hardwired her to be attracted to this type of man. When you take care of your own solid frame, you are conveying you are the man on that mission with that purpose. Without such purpose, you are lost. And if you are lost, she won't have a safe person to follow, okay? She wants to be able to trust you and that unshakability of your masculine frame. It's the biggest gift you give her, to feel deep inside that your masculine presence is stronger than your need to veer off course. If you bend over backwards trying to please her all the time, you will only come across as weak and unstable, like a woman. I'm not saying women are weak, but I think you get the point. In fact, if you take that approach of just bending over backwards and make her happy, she sees it as manipulative and controlling. Keeping aligned in the apex median puts you on a straight and narrow middle ground, okay? It's like solid, it's not over one side overcompensating, okay? Think of it like bowling. Roll that snazzy looking heavy ball too far on either side and it's headed towards the gutter, but anywhere down the middle and you're getting the domino effect of smashing those pins. The same exact thing goes for your physical fitness. Over exercising can lead to injury and burnout, while too little can harm your health as well. You see what I'm saying here? There is that healthy balance between wanting her but not needing her. That is the apex median. It gives you the best of both worlds. You take care of yourself and she's all the more attracted to you because of it. You get to have your cake and eat it too. So why would you choose any other way? And staying on this median is a heck of a lot easier when you apply the funnel principle. When Jacob came into the program, to say he was uncertain of getting her back is like saying it takes some luck to win the Powerball, right? It was a long shot in his eyes is what I'm trying to say. He needed interpretation from every single message sent, as an example. When she was cold around him or left his text messages on read, he always saw it through the lens of just loss, fear. She's leaving me, she's abandoning me. Whereas men who win their wife back, they always find the wins. This is why, for this next principle, you need to learn to divorce your doubt. I love this quote from the French novelist and playwright Honoré de Balzac. I think that's how you say it, but he says, when you doubt your power, you give power to your doubt. You see, doubt will only foster a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more power you give to it, the more it will impact your reality, your outside circumstance. There's a story you might have heard. It's a Cherokee legend in which an old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside of me, he said to the little boy. It's a terrible fight. It's between the wolves, two wolves. One is evil, it's anger, regret, arrogance, guilt, resentment. And he continues saying, the other is good. He's the joy, the peace, the love, the hope, the empathy, the generosity, the truth, everything good, okay, versus everything bad. Now this same fight is going on inside of you, every other person too. The grandson thought about it for a minute, then asked his grandfather, okay, that makes sense. I can see that in my head, but which wolf wins? The old Cherokee simply said, the one you feed. You see, divorce yourself from that doubt. Separate it from you. Your perception is in your control. What's amazing is that you can literally have the same event happen to two different men and have completely different outcomes. And what separates the two different outcomes from the same event with the two different men is that one of these is being overrun with doubt, but the other sees the positivity, the growth, the lesson, and his wins within. If you choose to divorce your doubt, you remain confident in the changes that you are making, and the rest just falls into place. Let go of that doubt and let the real change begin. And if you're struggling in your marriage and you still want to turn it around, you think there's still a possibility, you see that voice of doubt and you say, you know what, I don't want to listen to anymore. I know there's that voice of hope, that wolf of light, and I want to give it an opportunity to see if I can save it. Of course, you can set the call up down below with our marriage evaluation team, but I also want to let you know that this video right here on tests is my most comprehensive video I've ever made on this channel. So if you want to pass your wife's test every single time, yeah, click on that one. See you in the next video.